Hi, I'm North Carolina wildlife photographer Neil Jernigan, and in today's video we're going to be talking about black bear and black bear photography tips. He'll stop and eat it all off, and then he works his way a little bit closer until he finds it. Before we start with your photography tips, let's talk about safety. So when you're out in bear country photographing bear, whether it's in eastern North Carolina or the Grand Tetons or Glacier National Park, you want to obey all state and local law. You don't want to directly approach the bear, harass the bear, and please don't feed the bear. A fed bear is a dead bear. When you feed a bear in the wild, they become dependent, and that will leave the National Park Service no choice but to euthanize that animal. So please do not feed the wildlife. Do not surround, approach, follow, or block a bear's line of travel. If you see a bear, just sit back and relax. Enjoy the show. The more comfortable they are with your presence, the more they're going to act natural, and the better shots that you'll be able to get. If you kind of jump out of your car, rush towards the bear, number one, you're putting your life and the bear's life at risk, because if they attack you, most likely the Park Service will have to euthanize that bear. Another thing too, the longer you sit there, the more natural they're going to act, the better photographs that you'll actually get. You want a bear to act naturally. You don't want butt shots of a bear as they're running away. We all understand when we see photos of a bear running, we know that most likely you've spooked the bear and are just grabbing a shot. So please do not harass the wildlife, do not surround a bear, do not directly approach a bear, and do not block their line of travel. Also, when you're in bear country, bring bear spray. You never want to use it, but just in case, it's a nice little extra insurance policy that you can have in your back pocket. I always take it with me no matter where I am. I've owned bear spray for 10 years and I've never felt the need to deploy it, but it's a little extra insurance policy that'll help you if you need it. So when you're in bear country, always hike with a friend, always wear normal colored clothing, and while you're out in the woods on a trail, talk normal, talk loudly. You want to make sure that the bear are aware that you're there. You don't want to spook one. If you are in a dense forest and you're walking on a trail, if you're talking normal, talking loud, if you come across a bear, they will know that you're there and they won't spook. A lot of times black bear have prey mentality, which means they're going to run first. But if a bear is on a food source, they will protect it, and if a sow has cubs, she will protect them. So you want to make sure that you're nice and loud, wear bright colored clothing, and you'll be safe. One thing to keep in mind is you want to keep a safe distance of at least 50 yards or more. Sometimes when you're in bear country, it happens. Bear will be right there, right in front of you, anywhere from 30 to 40 feet. Back away slowly. Do not approach and get within that 50-yard line. Black bear can run extremely fast, and you don't want to be in the situation where you have to reach for your back pocket to grab your bear spray. If you're at a safe distance, you'll never have to reach for your bear spray. So when you're out in bear country, don't forget to look up. A lot of people are actually surprised by the fact that bear can climb trees. Well, fun fact, they're actually excellent climbers. From the time that they're little and learn how to climb, they are excellent climbers. They'll shoot up and down trees in a matter of seconds. And a lot of times during the middle part of the day, during the summer months, you can find them asleep in trees. It's up there where the nice cool breeze is blowing, and it's also safe from predators. So anytime you're in bear country or you're searching for black bear, don't forget, always look up. So when you're out photographing black bear, or any wildlife for that matter, you want to make sure you're on a nice, sturdy, and stable tripod. Now I'll admit, a lot of us like to shoot handheld, myself included. So here's a couple tips for y'all, all you hand shooters out there. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you get your elbows and arms nice and tight, close to your body. Hold the camera up, and essentially you're making your body the tripod. Nice and sturdy. You can then pan, zoom in and out, track your subject, and when you're ready, exhale, release the shutter, and you'll get sharper images every time shooting handheld. So another thing to keep in mind when photographing bear, you always want to focus on their eye, and if possible, if you're at a safe distance, drop down and photograph at or below their eye level. By doing that, getting closer to the ground, you're making the bear more dominant in the frame, and it gives you a cleaner separation from the subject and the background, giving you those really nice, clean, blurry background bokeh images that everybody loves. So just remember, always focus on the eye, and if possible, if you're at a safe distance, drop down to at or below their eye level, and you'll get better pictures every time. So when you're out photographing black bear or any wildlife, you want to make sure of two things. You want to make sure your autofocus is set to continuous. For me, it's AI servo, and you want to make sure that your frame rate is set to high. For me, that is continuous high. So when you're pressing your shutter button or back button to focus, as long as you're pressing either of those buttons halfway, it will continuously track your subject as it moves throughout the frame. And when you fully press the shutter button, it'll fire off multiple frames per second. That way you not miss any of the action, and then you can go through and post and select the best one of the sequence. So remember those two things. You want to make sure your autofocus is in continuous, and you want to make sure your frame rate is set to high. Alright, let's talk about settings. Shutter speed. You want a fast shutter speed, so anything faster than 500th of a second, that'll freeze most of your action. As far as your aperture is concerned, you want to shoot as wide as possible. This particular lens zoomed all the way in at 600, that happens to be 6.3. Your lens may shoot f4, it could be as low as 2.8. So you want a nice wide aperture, lets in as much light as possible to give you a fast shutter speed. It also gives you those really nice, clean, blurry backgrounds. And as far as ISO is concerned, I shoot anywhere from 400 to 3200, but I'm not afraid to crank the ISO on up if I need to. I'm most concerned with photographing the moment, and if it means shooting at a high ISO, I'll just go ahead and set it to a high ISO. There's plenty of software programs out there today that you can actually bring down the noise in post-processing. So I always get this question, Neil, what metering mode do you use when photographing bear? 95% of the time I use evaluative metering, which is the Canon terminology, or Nikon, it would be matrix metering. Pretty much it meters the light from the entire scene. And that does, for the most part, everything I need. In those tricky situations or unique lighting situations, I will switch over to spot metering and meter right in the middle of the frame and meter the light that's coming off the bear. But most of the time it's matrix or evaluative metering. And so another thing to keep in mind when photographing a bear, if the bear happens to take up 60% or more of the frame, you want to go ahead and underexpose, because your camera is going to see all that big black mass and want to slow down your shutter speed to let in more light. So you're going to go ahead and adjust your exposure compensation to the negative and make sure it stays dark, or just speed up your shutter speed to cut down on the light to make sure your black bear stays black. So along with the natural vegetation that the bears feed on, here in eastern North Carolina we have an assortment of crops that they love to eat. Like right here, wheat. They love wheat. They love soybeans and they love corn. And so if you look for the food source, you'll find the bear. That's the easiest way to find a bear. Bears eat almost all the time. They eat and they sleep. They wake up and they eat again. So as long as you look for the food source, you find the food source and you'll find the bear. So when you first arrive to a wheat field and you don't see anything, wait a few minutes. A lot of times the bear will actually lay down and start eating on the wheat, and every few minutes, just to check for predators and to check for other bear, they'll pop up and they'll stand up and look around. Remember, bear have very poor eyesight, So what they'll do is they'll stand up, try to look for it, and then that also elevates their nose. So then they'll reach up and sniff the air to look for either predators or other bear. So black bear are mostly crepuscular, which means they're very active in the first few hours of the day and the last few hours of the day. So if you're out looking for them in the middle of the day, you will see some, just not as many. Most of them are in their day beds, and later in the afternoons, they'll work their way out to their feeding areas. They'll feed mostly in the evenings, overnight, and then first thing in the morning, you can see them making their way back to their day beds. So if you're out in the middle of the day and you're not seeing many bear, that's why. I hope you've enjoyed this black bear photography tip video, and I wish you good luck on your next outing. Remember, photography is all about the experience, so go with an open mind, an open schedule, and just take in the moment and have fun. I'm Neil Jernigan. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.